Hi everyone! So today I wanted to do a little houseplant rehab and propagation updates video for you guys because we have done a lot of propagations together in the past, and I did a while back show you guys the plants that I was rehabbing, and so I was thinking you guys might like to see just kind of where everyone is now. And so I think we're going to start with the propagations today, and then we'll move into the rehabbing plants after that. And I think we're going to go in terms of like the oldest propagations to the newest propagations as we go through these propagations. So the first one I want to give you guys an update on is my Ctenanthe lubbersiana propagation. And this is the one that I did in my bedroom plant tour video. This was the first time I had ever propagated a Ctenanthe in water. And then recently, I think it was actually in my very first vlog video that we moved this from water into soil together. And so as you can see, it has started to put out some more leaves. These leaves are not getting a lot of variegation because where it is, I think it's just not getting quite enough light, but I don't really have a good place on the propagation carts to put it where it will fit and get more light. But this will correct itself with just some more light. But as you can see in the bottom here, I'm going to try to hold this up without accidentally dumping dirt everywhere, but the roots have definitely started to spread around more in the bottom of this pot since we moved it into soil. And actually, you guys, I realized I just said that wrong. We moved it from a 2-inch pot to this 3-inch pot, not from water to soil in that vlog video. But it has already, as you can see, started to fill in more in this pot, and it is definitely more stable. Now, I do have another propagation of this Ctenanthe that was one that we did not do together. And I'm thinking once they both get more roots established, I might actually combine them into a pot together so that we have a fuller looking plant. And then I'll add that to my list of plants that I'm selling to benefit charity. But definitely doing great here and definitely putting out more growth. Now, the next one I want to look at is actually the cutting that we did from the how to maintain variegation video because my Pothos, pearls, and jade had started reverting. And so I had trimmed off the reverting vine in order to encourage new variegated growth to come in, which new variegated growth has started to come in on that plant. And so I think this was also in my very first vlog video that we potted that cutting up into this 3-inch pot. And I told you guys I wasn't holding out any hope for any new variegation coming out on this plant, and it hasn't. It has only put out all new green leaves, as you can see here. This was the only leaf that had a tiny bit of variegation left on it at the time that I cut it from the mother plant. So once again, pretty sure this is just gonna stay green now, but it is doing well. It is putting out new growth. And I'm gonna try and hold this up so you guys can see the roots. And just a quick note, you guys, I don't think I've ever talked about this much, but Philodendron and epipremnums, their roots tend to take on a very brown appearance in a pot. I don't want anybody to ever be concerned that that means that there's root rot, because these plants, for whatever reason, their roots just are a darker tannish color than, for example, we're going to be looking at a Scindapsus here in a little bit, and you'll see what I mean about the difference in the root color. And this is also going to make this probably a little bit hard to see on camera, but we're going to do our best. But if you can see down in there, we do have a lot of root growth going on in there. So this plant is definitely getting more and more established. And right now this is just one single vine. And so as this gets longer, what I intend on doing is propagating it again and again so that I can have a nice full pot before I ever try to sell it or give it away to someone or whatnot, because I really would want them to have a full pot with multiple vines versus just the one vine. But definitely doing great. Let's see, who do we want to look at next? So we actually did, I'm realizing, a lot of these propagations in that original vlog video, or we did something with them, you know, even if it wasn't taking them. But we did in that video give my Philodendron cordatum that was hanging in my bathroom a trim because it had started growing down into my red maranta. And just so you guys know, it's almost reached my red maranta yet again, so I am definitely going to need to propagate it again here soon. My Philodendron micans is also almost hitting my couch again. Those two are just growing like crazy. But we did take those cuttings, we did put them in water in that video. I did recently move them from water into soil, and what I ended up doing was I took these 4-inch pots and I put 5 of the cuttings that we had rooted in water in each pot so that it will fill in and look like a nice full trailing plant. And as you can see, this one is already starting to get a new leaf right here. These have only been in this pot for about a week now, but they are still putting out new growth, so I know they're happy. So I do have, I think, I'm looking at the carts, let me see, 3, 4. I was able to do 4 4-inch plants, each with 5 cuttings in it from those cuttings that we took in that vlog video. So these are gonna be some nice, cute, beautiful Philodendron cordatum for me to add to the list of plants that I'm selling as well. So let's set this one back aside, and why don't we talk about the Tradescantia that we propagated in that video as well, because I've been talking about Tradescantias quite a bit lately. I feel like in videos, I brought them up in the How to Fix a Balding Houseplant video, explaining to you guys that it's very easy to just take a cutting, stick it back in the top because they root so fast. Not only do they root fast, but they grow super fast. So I will flash up on screen, by the way, how long ago it was that that first vlog video was filmed, so you guys have an idea of how long it's been since you saw these plants. But here's what the Tradescantia, one of the propagations, is looking like now. And look at that. Look how long and beautiful that is. Like I told you guys, these plants just take off. They take off so fast. And I believe we put 4 cuttings into each of the pots in that video. But honestly, I can't even really, well, maybe I can. No, I can't. This is the thing about Tradescantia. So unlike with the Philodendron and the epipermanums that we were just looking at, where you put 1 vine in there, that's all you're gonna get. You put 3 vines in there, that's all you're gonna get. With Tradescantia, that's not how it works. So we only put 4 vines in here, but I can see where the 4 we stuck in are, but then there's a new one growing just out of the soil on its own right here. I'll try to tilt it. I don't know how well you guys are gonna, I don't think you're gonna be able to see it in there. Maybe I'll film some separate footage and try to splice it in here. But there is a new vine growing from down in the soil completely on its own. And then all of these vines, this you probably can see, they've started to get additional vines growing off of them as well. So if you can see in there, there is the original vine right there, and then there is this side shoot that has come off of it over there. So these plants just naturally will fill in and get more lush over time, but once again, you can help it along quicker by taking a cutting and sticking it back in the top. But look at these roots. Let me see. Of course, the side that has the most roots is the side that's being covered by the vines. So let me see if I get them out of the way so that you can just see all of that root growth in there. Look at all of those roots. And this plant does have very fine roots, but once again, they just grow super fast. So this is super well established. I've actually already listed all of these for sale. Now, I'm not getting a lot of traction. I think I've sold 1. And so I think though, as they get more full, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take new pictures, and I pretty much can guarantee you the more full and big and lush they start to look, the more interest I'm gonna get. And I just absolutely love this plant. I love the mother plant. I mean, I love that they grow that quickly, they recover from things quickly, they root quickly. Just an awesome, awesome plant. Now, in that same vlog video, once again, we actually propagated for the very first time, because I had never done it before, my Joseph's coat plant. And I will flash the scientific name up on screen for you guys. I just keep calling it Joseph's coat because for this one, it's way easier to say. I, for some reason, like stutter and stumble over the scientific name for this one all the time. It's like one of my Achilles heels of scientific plant names, I guess. But this was the first time that we had ever propagated this, and we just stuck these straight into soil. Just a reminder, you can't go to water with these. And I did have these covered with some little plastic domes to trap in the humidity, but I have since been able to remove the covers and they are doing just fine. I mean, look how super cute they are. Now, I did not mention in that video, I realized when I was going back and watching it, that lots of times when we do propagations like this, so for example, like my hibiscus, when I do a propagation, I will tell you guys to remove all the leaves except for the top 2, because typically the plant will lose its lower leaves. I didn't remove leaves on this one because I was just curious to see what would happen. And honestly, it dropped a few leaves the first week, a few of the lowest ones, but this is all still the leaf that was on it when we took that cutting. So I was actually really surprised by that. I'm really thinking, you know, they aren't in clear pots because I didn't have 2-inch clear pots. I'm really thinking there's probably a very significant amount of root growth that's already going on in here. I really wish I could see because I really want to know. But I also don't want to like pull them out and look right now because I know they're still trying to establish their roots. But obviously they've held up well, and I've actually already sold 2 of these. I went ahead and listed them online for sale, and a girl got super excited about them. She had actually just been here like 2 hours before buying some other plants, and then I listed these and she's like, I didn't see those before. I was like, that's because I just added them, and she came back and bought them. And yeah, just they're doing super well. Now, I just realized I wanted to show you guys how Mama's doing, and I forgot to bring her in here. So let me go get the Mama plant real quick. Okay, so I've got Mom. I knew I was forgetting something when I was setting up to film this video. Mom is doing great. Now, you might recall that there was one tall, kind of elongated stem that I had left on top because I was just getting a little bit nervous since I had never, propagated this plant before and I didn't want to cut too much off at once. And it was still sticking straight up. That's why I left it there. The other ones were drooping over. That's why I wanted to trim those off and propagate those. I kid you not though, you guys, like not even 2 days later after filming that vlog, it had been standing straight up just fine, and then it decided to be all flopping all over the place. So I did later on go back in and propagate that one as well, but Mom has done fine. You can see she's looking great, beautiful as always. And I'm gonna try to show you a close-up because I can see right here where we took one of the cuttings, and she is just now starting to get some new leaf buds going off. I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to get this up there where y'all can see. Once again, if I am editing this and I feel like you can't see it, I'll just cut in some separate footage of it for you. But it's right here. There's like that little, you can see where there's like, it looks like it had been cut and there are just those tiny, tiny little leaves starting to develop there. So it is starting to put out new growth now. It did take a little bit longer than kind of I thought it might to start coming in with new leaves just because of how quickly I saw the actual propagation start to kick out new stuff. I thought that Mom for sure would kick it out sooner than that, but she didn't. But that's okay. It's okay. She's still putting out new growth now. Oh, and before I forget, it dawned on me when I was thinking about prepping for this video that I have never mentioned to you guys something that is very important to know regarding watering when you have propagated a plant. Let me set her down real quick. So you need to be aware, especially if you are kind of one of those people who's still trying to figure out watering and it's still giving you problems, and maybe you're underwatering sometimes or overwatering sometimes or underwatering a lot or overwatering a lot. When you propagate a plant, especially if you take as much off of plant as we did on this one, you will find that you are not going to have to water that plant as frequently for a little while. And the reason for that is when we did the trim down on this one, we took off a lot of growing points on this plant. So all those places that we cut, it's not actually actively trying to put out new growth at that point because it needs to wait to develop those new growth points first. It now had less foliage that it needed to support, and because of that, it's not going to use up the water as much because it just doesn't have as much stuff to send the water to. So you see this a lot with plants when you cut significantly back. And just a reminder, because I'm pretty sure I've told you guys this before, but if I haven't, I apologize. You want to try not to cut more than 1/3 of a plant back at any given time. If you cut more than that back, you're risking causing permanent damage or creating other issues with your plant. Now, my hibiscus is one of those plants where I always cut it back 1/3 of the way in springtime anyway. It's just part of the process with hibiscus in order to get them to be growing and blooming in the springtime and summer. But when that happens, typically I will be having to water that plant about once every 4 days. Once I do the cut down, we go to like maybe once every 10 days. And then over time, as it starts to develop new growth points and start pushing out more leaves, that will slowly decline. So it'll become 9 days, it'll become 8 days, it'll become 7 days, and then we'll get back to being, I have to water it every 4 days. So do not be shocked or surprised if you find that the soil in your plant's pot is staying wet longer after you've done a significant amount of cutting back on a plant. Do not think, oh, well, I must still need to water it and go water it again too soon. Just keep following that same rule of waiting and seeing, is it dry enough yet? Does it need water? And just know that you might be going a significantly sometimes amount longer in between waterings after you've done a pretty major propagation on a plant. But I think that is all of the propagations from the vlog video. Let's see, yep. And so I want to show you guys what some of the corm babies are looking like that we propagated in my How to Propagate Alocasia Corms video. And so I have the Alocasia Maharani one here, which you got to see in my Things My Plants Do That Drive Me Crazy video recently. But for those of you who might not have seen that, this is what we're looking like, and all of them have 2 leaves now. They're all about the same size like this, and they're looking great. I have actually sold 2 of these as well to a young couple who were super happy to have them. But these are just so cute. I mean, obviously looking way better than Mama. Don't even get me started. Although, you guys, After I filmed the video where I wrote the letter to the Alocasia Maharani telling it how crazy it was driving me, it finally started to put out a new leaf. Look at this. We're finally getting a new leaf, not a new leaf and a flower, not just a flower, not 5 flowers at once, because at one point, okay, 5 is an exaggeration, but at one point it did put out 3 flowers at once. Like they were coming out together. I was like, really? Really? We're doing this? So I am super happy that we are getting a new leaf. I'm hoping this is going to be followed by more new leaves and no more flowers, especially now that we're moving further and further into fall. And I'm also hoping that he doesn't just randomly decide to go dormant, which he didn't really last year. He slowed down a lot, but he didn't go dormant. So fingers crossed, we're turning around and he actually listened to my request in my letter. But back to the babies, super cute. However, you guys have not gotten to see the other corms. So if you haven't seen that video, I wanted to film from start to finish how to do the process for you guys. So I had propagated corms from my Maharani and I wasn't filming when I did that. It just, I don't know. I was just repotting the plant. I found them. I wasn't filming. So after I harvested them, I was like, well, I want to film this whole process. So you guys got to see the process after harvesting of the Maharani corms through to finish. But in that video, I did show you harvesting corms, but what we were harvesting were my black velvet Alocasia's corms. So I did take those through the same process after filming that video, and they have now been potted up into soil, and they have 1 leaf so far. We haven't gotten another new leaf yet, but look how cute that little black velvet Alocasia leaf is with its super velvety texture and its nice white veining. Love it, so cute. I will say that I feel like, well, first of all, these corms were quite a bit smaller than the ones that I had harvested from the Maharani. So I was gonna say, I feel like it's taking longer for them to get to the point of putting out a second leaf than it did on the Maharani. But that might just have something to do with the fact that the corms were so much smaller. I do have this in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet because that's where I had put these and they've been doing great. But I think at a certain point, probably around now, especially for the Maharani, I think I'm gonna need to move them to somewhere brighter because while those grow lights in that cabinet are great, as I've told y'all before, alocasias really want a lot of bright light. And I'm kind of thinking that now that we're getting more roots in here and you can't really see very well. Yeah, you can't really see very well the roots in this one yet because it's been relatively recently potted up. Let me see if I can get this up so you guys can see some of those roots down in there. Hopefully you can see them. They're kind of swirling around the edge down here in the bottom too, but they're starting to get more roots established and now I'm kind of feeling like maybe I need to get them into some brighter light. So I might be moving them here soon and I will definitely give you an update on if that helped kick off more new leaf growth quicker once I give it a go. But definitely super happy about this and I don't know what the deal is, you guys, but propagating corms right now is like my favorite thing. Like, I don't know, it's just so fun. They're so cute. I just love it. You know, I've heard from some of you guys too that you're really digging on your corm propagations right now. I really wish you could share pictures in the comments below because I would love to see what your propagations look like, but you can always share them with me over on Instagram at Aloha Plant Life. Let me see what you've got going on. But let's look at, actually that's all of our propagations that I wanted to give you an update on. So let's move on to the plants that I was rehabbing and let you know what's going on with that. And we'll be looking at that, you know, Scindapsus treubii Moonlight last. That one, that plant, you guys, we'll get there. We'll get there in a second. But first of all, let's take a look at the Scindapsus Argyraeus. So just a reminder, or if you are new and don't know the story here, I did buy this plant. It was a bunch of unrooted cuttings. I did not know it was a bunch of unrooted cuttings. I ended up finally taking them out of the pot, potting them up separately and trying to kind of rehab them that way. And the last time I gave you guys an update on this plant, I had just potted it up potted all of those cuttings that I was rehabbing separately up together into one shallow pot here because I was just worried about overrunning them with soil because I don't know, I just still felt like it was a little bit of a touchy situation and that whole Scindapsus treubii Moonlight thing was making me feel even weirder about it. So I just wanted to put it in kind of a smaller pot. Now we are going to need to get moved out of this relatively soon, I think. And part of the reason for that is because wait till you see these roots. And just a reminder, remember what the epiprimitum roots look like earlier where I told you they're kind of brownish and not to necessarily worry about that and think that it's root rot. Scindapsus, on the other hand, get white roots and they stay white. So if you start to see Scindapsus roots looking like that, I might be slightly concerned because look at this. Oh, this spot right here. I mean, oh my gosh. Look at all of those roots. So white, so many swirling around in there. And I mean, this just has taken off. I'll flash up on screen how long it's been since the last time I showed you this plant, but we did not have that many roots the last time I showed you this plant, but we are just getting almost kind of like root bound around the bottom. I am gonna wait until the roots kind of fill in a little bit higher up on this pot. And then I've had it just sitting in here because I didn't really want, it's in a southern facing window right now. And I didn't want the bright light hitting on those roots through that clear pot. So it's just been sitting inside of here. I do also think, you guys, I might need to start finding another place for it. I know in my relocating houseplants video I did recently, I said it was fine with the level of light in that window, but now it's getting longer and longer that it's getting direct light during the day. And I'm starting to see some of the leaves look, to me, they look a little bit paler. If I showed them to you right now, you don't have a reference of what they looked like before, so they probably just look fine to you. But to me, they look like they're getting a little bit paler, so I think I'm gonna have to possibly move this one up onto the shelves over the couch and, you know, move somebody else around or something. But I'm gonna keep an eye on it next week and kind of see if I still see what I think is lightening of the leaves, and if I do, then I'm definitely gonna move it. But definitely super happy. We have fully recovered. I did lose, I think, 2 cuttings in total, maybe 3. There was one that I thought might put out a new growth point after I showed this to you the last time that finally I realized I was like, no, it's done. I pulled it out of here. But everybody else is putting out new growth. You can see right there, there's like a new leaf coming in right here. I really hope the lighting is okay, by the way, you guys. It's like really gloomy and rainy out today, but we're doing our best. But we're definitely getting growth down here as well. There's like a new leaf coming in. So almost every single vine in here that's a separate vine is getting a new leaf. So we are definitely making a full comeback, full recovery. I'm super happy about it. And yeah, I think we're just gonna keep getting fuller and fuller. I did actually do my bobby pin method and draped a vine across here the other day because I do want it to look more full on top because we did lose those few vines. But all in all, I think we're looking great. And I can do more cuttings and plant them back up in the top even after I pot this up into like a deeper pot like this, because we're still small enough that those cuttings will survive at this size if I do that to make this plant look fuller. But super happy about this. So let me set this one aside. We only have 2 more plants we're going to be looking at. So the next one that I was rehabbing was the string of dolphins. So if you guys don't know the whole backstory on that or you've forgotten, the plant had been overwatered at the store. I knew that a lot of those plants must have been overwatered because there was a sign for the employees saying don't water these, but I checked the roots. I thought they were okay. It turned out they weren't. I think they went from overwatering to they let them dry out too much, and then by the time I got it home and watered it, things were not going well. So just a reminder, I had 2 separate rehabbing situations going on for this plant. I had 2 vines, I think, the last time y'all saw it. I had 2 vines in soil. They had started to root. I had 2 vines in water. One of them just was not getting roots in water for some reason, so I have added it to this pot. It is still alive right now. It's been there for a while, so I think it must be developing roots. I just don't want to disturb it. But this one obviously is putting out new growth big time. The other one is rooted down in there. It just hasn't started to put out any new growth yet. But this one's definitely starting to pick up. So definitely we are being successful here. We still have a string of dolphins. Now the other one that was in water did get significant roots. It had started to get some roots the last time I showed it to you guys. But I just a couple of weekends ago potted it up into soil, into a little 2-inch pot. My original plan was to put it directly into the pot with this one, but because those 2 that are laying on the surface were still trying to root, I obviously just didn't want to disturb them. So we're gonna be in 2 separate pots for a while until we get enough roots for me to combine them into like a 3-inch or a 4-inch pot. But this guy is doing great, definitely putting, oh, come on, focus. There we go. Definitely putting out more growth. It's gotten probably another inch taller since I put it into the soil here. And this is just in a regular store-bought cacti and soil mix, this one, because that's what I had on hand when I had to pot it up. This one actually is in I think a mix of like my Bonsai Jack's Gritty mix and this soil. It's like a half and half mix. And like I said, this one's taken off, this one's taken off, so both of these soils are working great. And so I'm super happy to still have a string of dolphins. I just can't wait till they get like more established enough for me to be able to combine them, and also more established and grow enough to actually start to trail over. But so happy that I was able to save this plant. But moving on to the biggest pain in my side right now, and that is that Scindapsus treubii Moonlight. And I know a lot of you guys said after the last video you had similar experiences. You ended up having to try to start roots in water again on some of them. You tried potting them up separately in smaller pots, and a lot of you said the same thing, like that it still didn't work, you lost all of them. So I'm trying to remember, and I think last time I saw you guys, I had one that was basically a wet stick. It never did anything. Never did anything, no roots, no nothing. I just was like, whatever, I'm done with you. Threw it away. The other one that was in the water with that one was this one, and I had showed you guys last time that it was starting to get roots, but honestly, and once again, I'll flash up on screen how long it's been since I showed you this plant, but it hasn't done anything else. There's still just like minor little roots there. It's not doing anything, like, I don't even know. And then I had another one that was in water that had longer roots than that. They really didn't get much longer. They kind of stopped growing at 1.2, but it was pretty long. They were like about this long. So I went ahead and I potted that one up, and I kid you not, within 3 days, the thing had died. I am just convinced if you do not repot this plant, if you buy one and it's in the inappropriate type of soil, if it's in a very peaty soil, a very dense soil, and not in an airy epiphytic type soil, if you do not repot it right away, if it does not have like fully established roots, if it's just a bunch of not fully rooted cuttings, if you don't repot it, if you don't start rehabbing it like immediately, this plant I feel like is not gonna make it. Like, everybody I have talked to for the most part has had problems with this plant if they don't do that. If you have had similar experiences, please share them down below. If you've had to rehab it and it worked, please share what you did down below, because so many people I have talked to are having problems with these plants. I did recently hear from one of you guys though that bought one, and I believe you said you bought it at a big box store, that you got it home, you checked it, and it was almost like root bound from the sound of it. So I'm really hoping that means that the growers are starting to realize the problems that people are experiencing when they send these out as not fully rooted plants, and are actually waiting until they are more established. Now it sounds like they probably still don't have them in the best type of soil, so I would still recommend changing that soil out when you get it. But I was super happy to hear that, you know, there was a ton of roots, the plant looked really healthy, especially since it was bought at a big box store. So hopefully things are going to turn around for people who are buying these in big box stores especially. But right now, once again, I'm holding out very little hope for this one leaf that is left. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not going to try to put it into soil until it gets some more root growth, because that's like hardly anything right there. And you know what? At this point, I'm just going to be straight up honest with you guys. If I lose this plant completely, I'm kind of beyond caring. This has just been like an insane situation. It has been super annoying. Will I ever get another one of these and try it again? I'm not sure. Maybe if I start hearing from more of you guys that you're buying them, that they are healthier, that they are surviving, then maybe I will give it another go. You better believe though, I will be slipping it out of that pot at the store and making sure there is just a ton of healthy looking roots. But I hope you guys have enjoyed getting this little update today. I just, you know, we do a lot of things together in some of my videos, especially my vlog videos, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys get to see like where things are, you know, further down the line. So if you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like and or subscribe button down below, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Aloha!